I am a man. Don't look at me with disdain, for I am not a weakling. I am a man. I stood when to stand brought severe reprimand. I spoke when to speak brought denunciations from the weak and brutal attacks from those in power. But to me this was my greatest hour. With chin thrust out and head up proud, I stood up straight and I said out loud, I am a man, and I shall always defy the oppression of mankind until the day I die.
The primary problems that led up, as I have read, had to do with the very, very negative working conditions for the sanitation workers. Some of those conditions were when it was raining. They did not have a place to protect themselves from the elements, rain or snow. And in fact, that particular situation is what led to the the sanitation workers strike, when two of the sanitation workers were trying to get out of the elements. The only place that they could go was the back of one of the trucks. And when they got into the truck, the compactor crushed, killed at least one of them, as I recall. And that led to, and then of course, the very, very low pay for nasty, dirty work. Very, very low pay. The treatment like second-class citizens was another one of the causes. And then really the whole attitude that the white power structure, both the white business power structure and the white political power structure, had toward African Americans, and specifically in the case of the sanitation workers, what the attitude that they had toward them as workers and as employees of the city.
The mayor there, who was Loeb, he was the mayor at that time, and then you was in a time period where segregation was law of the land, pretty much. It was even if it wasn't the law of the land, it was definitely the practice of the land, particularly at the sanitation workers. I mean, in the city of Memphis. So blacks and white was being treated totally different. Whites were getting good treatment. Blacks were getting totally being treated like they was inhuman at that time.
It was a city that really was racially divided, and that was before Dr. King came here. So there was just a tremendous amount of turmoil and division and mistrust, and I think that it expressed itself more fully when the sanitation strike began. But that was just symbolic, really, of other problems that were taking place in the community.
Let the record reflect that my name is Mrs. Cornelia Crenshaw and I reside at 603 Vance Avenue. Let the record also reflect that I have been in many of the budget hearings and that I am here very frequently to look in on what the council is doing. I have had some pretty rough times down here, but that doesn't matter. I'm here again to do what I feel is necessary to be done. But I am deeply grieved that the Memphis City school system has to come here every year, hat in hand, in order to beg for enough funds to keep operating. I am also deeply grieved that our city council and our administration has not had the forethought, or let's say the courage, to take a step that would render it unnecessary for 56 different groups who was on this budget to have their money cut back so that one or maybe two groups might get what they want. I read an article in the paper a few weeks ago from Mr. Moyers, who was formerly with the Memphis Light, Gas, and Water Company. Mr. Moyers, I don't usually agree with him on many things, but I agreed with him that at some point the Memphis City Council must have the courage to increase taxes so that you can adequately take care of all of the facets of organizations under your supervision. I have a very simple formula. You aren't going to like it. I've told you all about it before, but I want the teachers to know what it is. I want them to know how they're getting shortchanged. I'm going to tell you where the money is going to come from. And as Mr. Ford up there said, he's an expert on everything that's come up here today. I'm an expert. I'm an expert on Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. I'm an expert.
I agree.
Yes, I am an expert on the garbage fee. It'll always be that to me. I am an expert on the sewer fee. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to all of you too. I want you to know how you've been ripped off. You're not supposed to be down here begging money. You got money coming to you, just ain't thought about where it was. That's what I'm here for today, to tell you. And it doesn't matter whether you all like what I say or you know, I don't go by what people say. I do what I know, and I speak what I know, because I'm there and I know what's going down. I saw all the tricks that went down today. You're talking about some dirty politics. Mr. Carroll, you really got put in the trick. Okay, don't gavel me down, Mr. Raines. But anyway, I understand all the tricks.
I met Miss Crenshaw because of her work in the community. Miss Crenshaw was a very dedicated servant to humankind, and she was such a role model for the community. She was always willing to help, and when I would go by to visit her, she said, "Come on in, Maxine, and have a seat." She said, "I know you're tired." She said, "Let me fix you some lunch." Now, Miss Crenshaw was older than me, you know, but she would always find the energy and time. And I would look around in her room. She had a very rich taste for furniture, and her taste for liberation and freedom was also rich, because she had tons of papers and cases for people that she was helping. She was such a dedicated person.
The way I met Miss Crenshaw is I was president of the Minority Coalition of MLGW, and that's a black organization that was created to fight racism at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And when I became president of Memphis Light, of IBEW, of Minority Coalition, that's when I met Miss Crenshaw. I wanted her to speak at a banquet that we were having, and I sent her a letter, and then I went by her house to talk to her, and that's how I met Miss Crenshaw, being president of the Minority Coalition of MLGW. She became a mentor to me. She and I became really good friends, and I saw how pure her heart was when it came to the fighting for the black community, something that I don't see in today's so-called civil rights people. And that drawed me to her. And she was always teaching me stuff that went on back in that time period. And she was a demanding woman. She was a no-nonsense woman. She was always serious about the fight, because she always used to say, "Hey, I'm gonna have to teach you why I'm here, because they're gonna either kill me or I'm gonna die of old age."
And the fear of her enlightening us, the fear of her telling us the truth, was like defining God. And the way in which you define God is that he's a being working to bring the disconnected aspects of reality into a harmonious whole. That's what she did. Now, when you're doing that to a people who have been in darkness for a long time, and all of a sudden now you can point them to daylight, when you can point them to light, so you can point them to freedom, the manacles of segregation, the manacles of hatred and violence and a lack of dignity, love, and respect, when you can point people to the opposite, to the good thing, then you become a serious threat to the establishment. And there are times that if you don't die off, they'll get rid of you. And that's been proven over and over again, as with Socrates, as with Jesus Christ, as with Malcolm X, as with Dr. King, and so many others. When you're speaking the truth, that's something she did. She spoke the truth. And she put fear in people who didn't want the truth to be known. And she stood up to the council members and the mayors and others, simply telling the truth to help set people free.
We have churches on every corner just about in the city of Memphis. People come and visit Memphis and say, well, why do y'all have so many churches here and then y'all have so many problems here? Because leadership has been disobedient. The leadership is supposed to cry loud and spare none. They are supposed to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and help set the captive free. This is what Jesus was doing. He was a liberator. And when these things are not done for us, he told us what to do. Put plagues on them. That's what you got to do. Just like any business where they are overworking people, underpaying them, put a boycott on them. See, their God is their money. You take away their God, then you see, you get the picture. All right then.
Well, this particular image was taken at the Memorial March, and in it you can see George Meany, the president of the AFL-CIO, and his wife. You can see Jerry Worth, the president of the AFS-CME, over the sanitation workers. And right behind him is Cornelia Crenshaw, right there in the front line, as she always played, in my mind, that role. Next, we have Dr. King and Jerry Worth at Mason Temple the first time he came to Memphis. And once again, Cornelia Crenshaw is still in that front line. She took a very active role in support of the sanitation workers. And she also let Dr. King use her white Lincoln Continental. So she was an amazing woman. Here we have, guess who? Cornelia Crenshaw leading the line and march as a one-woman protest for boycotting to support the sanitation workers. Very powerful, powerful woman. She was dedicated to helping others, and that's my best image of her. Shows exactly what she was about.
Well, actually, it was a poem wrote by this guy named I think his name Robert Warwick. I think he wrote a poem with "I'm a Man" in it, and what he did, he copyrighted it and all that, but then he loaned "I'm a Man" to Cornelia Crenshaw. And what Cornelia Crenshaw did was she brought "I'm a Man" to the sanitation workers strike at that time. They called them the garbage strike, but she the one brought that whole theme, "I'm a Man," to the garbage strike. In fact, if Cornelia Crenshaw had not brought "I'm a Man" to the strike, it wouldn't even be there even to this day.
She also had this car that Dr. King actually rode in, and that was offered up to the museum that they refused to take for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't take the actual vehicle, but it shows the kind of passion and heart she had for the truth. And because of that truth, because she was such a genuine and caring and loving person, she taught us what that meant. And to be willing to give of something so important, like a car that Dr. King wrote in, to be willing to give that over, not just for her own acknowledgement, but that people, generations to come, will actually have the actual car that Dr. King rode in. But more than that, brother, more than that, she taught us the meaning of giving.
I love Dr. King for what he did, and I saw him when he made that speech, and my sister was sitting next, my sister's friend was sitting next to me. So I asked her, I said, would you please move and let my sister sit next to me? And we called, her name was Dorothy, and we called her Tootie. I said, Tootie, when she sat next to me, I said, do you see what I see? She said, yes, there is a glow around Dr. King's face. I saw it, and she saw it. And I'm grateful to God that I was able to, witness that.
The union won. They didn't get a whole lot of money, but the strike was settled and there was a celebration. But I have to say, those sanitation workers, to me, were heroes. Because what they did in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee was absolutely heroic.
Anytime you can, a woman can have the level of commitment and determination and the fortitude to decide that she would rather use candle lights and other methods of heating her home rather than to accommodate what was then the very prejudicial attitudes and selective methods of treatment for people in the African American community when it came to the utility company. A lot of things were done, and a lot of fees were put on the bills of folk in the inner city that were not applied to the bills of the folk in the suburbs or in East Memphis. So what Ms. Crenshaw did was to take the position that I'm not going to pay this utility bill, and out of protest, I'm going to go without utilities. And that's the equivalent, if you will, even though it was not a physical impediment from the standpoint of someone not eating or not drinking during, as Mahatma Gandhi would do in a hunger strike, or Dick Gregory would do in terms of a hunger strike. But it was the equivalent in the context that you're going without something. You're sacrificing the modern conveniences of heat, air, utility in order to stand for what's right.
People can credit her even though they don't talk about it. But it was because of Miss Cornelia Crenshaw. It's the reason people can now pay partial payments on their utility bill. MLGW just didn't decide to do that on their own. It's because of the fight that Cornelia Crenshaw was doing. It's the reason why they came up with partial payments on utility bill, because she used to say back in the day that she can see one day that the credit line in Memphis Light, Gas and Water is going to be longer than the payment line. Back in that time, nobody understood what she said, but even now, a lot of people talk about that even now. Say that payment line is so long, and when they go to the utility company, they say a lot of the time that the pay line was not really that long, but the credit line, what people were trying to get partial payment on their bill was 10 times longer than the payment line. So it seems like she saw that back 40 years ago, 50 years ago, she saw that.
So often we saw Malcolm and Dr. King and other men do, but to see a black woman standing up and able to articulate, very intelligent. She also, in her examples to us and the things that she left us, was her knowledge, her wisdom, her willing to study, her willing to march, her willing to not just preach and teach, but to be an example. So she says, what that says to me is, and I went back to school after that too, by the way. I had dropped out of high school. I went back to school, through night school, and went on to college and finished. It's because of great examples like that.
In honor of Miss Crenshaw, I led the effort to have the Vance Avenue Library renamed for her. She deserved that. She considered me to be her councilman. She would come to council and always address me. And when she was talking to the chairman of the council, she would always say, "I want to ask my councilman, Ricky Pete, to do this here for me." And so I was honored to be respected enough by her for her to consider me to be her personal councilman. And because she was a great lady and she deserved every honor that she has received.
Memphis has honored Nathan Bedford Forrest for the last 100 years greater than they've honored Dr. Martin Luther King. They don't have a statue that's representative of Dr. Martin Luther King yet, but they had him up there. You know, white supremacy, black race, hate, everything. He was a mass murderer. He killed 300 Africans at Fort Pillar in 1865. That was in his custody. Just in our city, of course. That's okay. We were fighting against it. I mean, so yes, Sister Crenshaw deserves a place in history, and I'm glad to hear that somebody is going to see that gets done.
Right now, they have signs all around the city that's saying, you know, they're going to celebrate MLK 50, and they got I Am a Man all around the city of Memphis, when they should have the picture of Cornelia Crenshaw on those signs saying, this is the woman who was courageous enough to bring I Am a Man to the strike to celebrate and commemorate those sanitation workers that were treated so terrible back in that time period. And she was the woman who was primarily responsible for Dr. King coming to Memphis. They need to build a statue of Cornelia Crenshaw over on Van Street. They need to build a statue of her so she can be remembered for all the work that she did, and she needs to go down in Memphis history as one of the great women of all times, because I see no other person who have came or gone that even come close to doing what Cornelia Crenshaw done for the black community, for the Memphis community as a whole. This used to be the place where the house, this used to be a white house here of Miss Cornelia Crenshaw. When she died, they tore the house down. There is no trace of Miss Cornelia Crenshaw right now because they tore the house down. The church owned this land. I did send a letter to the church asking them to donate that land to the charitable foundation so we could build a memorial of Miss Cornelia Crenshaw, but I never got an answer back from the church. The only trace of this house is these two water boxes. They used to go to that White House. They completely wiped her memory out. I see no other person that even come close to measuring up to Cornelia Crenshaw. She was the last of her kind, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't even think, in my time, on the rest of my time on Earth, I don't think I'll ever see another Cornelia Crenshaw.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Houston, and I am a fair share giver to the IBEW, Johnny Dawson Charitable Foundation, and you can become a giver as well by visiting our website at www.ibeww.org. JohnnyDawsonFoundation.org.
A blanket and Valentine's Day. We want you all to be our Valentine's.
Hey, my name is Marco Sanchez. I'm a first share giver to the IBEW Johnny Dawson Charity Foundation.
My name is Glenda Hicks, and I am a fair share giver to the IBEW Johnny Dawson Charitable Foundation.
Hi, my name is Tommy Polian. I'm an above fair share giver to the IBEW Charitable Foundation. Giving back is everybody's responsibility in the community.
Hi, I'm Bill Hawkins, and I'm an above fair share giver to the IBEW Johnny Dawson Charitable Foundation.
Helping the community is everybody's responsibility. The Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation. We will be talking about the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation, all the things the organization plans to do, how the organization was founded, who the founder is, and just everything that they're doing in the community. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, I would like to just go around the table and have you all to just introduce yourselves.
My name is Krystal Carroll.
And Brandy Lee.
I'm Rick Thompson.
Candiance Standback.
Toni Thompson Hunt.
My name is Tamara, of course, and we're all board members of the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation. I think you all know how much I talk about the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation, how much it actually means to me, like the things that we're doing. And these young ladies actually work with me. We all work together along with Mr. Rick with the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation to keep the legacy alive. And on today's show, you'll get to get a glimpse into all the things that we're doing and all the things that we plan to do in the name of Miss Cornelia Crenshaw and keeping her legacy alive while helping the community, because that's what she was really big on. She was the mother of civil rights right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and we just want to keep her legacy alive because she had planned to do a lot of things before she passed away. So we're just going to continue that, and I'm happy to be a part of this board. Mr. Rick, I'll start with you. Why is the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation so important to you?
Well, number one, let me give a little background about Miss Cornelia Crenshaw and my relationship.
Okay.
First, let me just say that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw was my mentor. She was the lady who brought Dr. King to Memphis, and she was the lady who brought I'm a Man to the sanitation workers strike. And while it hurts me that city officials are trying to write her out of history, it is our intentions to make sure that her legacy stay alive. So, Ms. Crenshaw taught me about all the dirty tricks of some politicians, some civil rights activists, some preachers, judges, and what have you. And thank God she did. But Miss Cornelia Crenshaw name should never be forgotten about, because in the 60s and 70s and 80s and early 90s, when she died, Miss Crenshaw was considered the mother of the civil rights movement. And she was all about educating her people, the black community. And one more thing I must say, because the community is still benefiting even to this day, even though she's dead. Miss Cornelia Crenshaw is the person who forced Memphis Light, Gas, and Water to allow partial payment on utility bills. Before Miss Cornelia Crenshaw put pressure on MLGW, if your utility bill was $200 and you paid $190, since the whole bill wasn't paid, your utility bill got turned off. So when Miss Crenshaw is the woman who put pressure on MLGW, because she used to say that one day the credit line was going to be longer than the pay line. She said that some 40 years ago. And if you go into Memphis Light, Gas, and Water to this day, the credit line is so long until people are trying to make arrangement to pay you. Anyway, 40 years ago, she predicted this was going to happen, and it's still happening even to this day. So a lot of people can be thankful that a Miss Cornelia Crenshaw came through, because had she not come through, a lot of people's utility bills would be being turned off even to this day. Now, Miss Cornelia Crenshaw is the person who spearheaded the committee that brought Dr. King to Memphis. Even though she get no credit for spearheading that committee that brought Dr. King to Memphis, she was the lady who spearheaded that particular situation. And right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and Shelby County, there's a problem when it comes to recognizing strong black women. When it comes to recognizing strong black women, it seems like there's a glass ceiling there. They only want to go so far when it comes to strong black women, and Miss Crenshaw is no exception. They're doing her the same way. So when you look at all the accomplishment that Miss Crenshaw did for the black community and the community as a whole, her name, she is one that are worthy of remembrance. So we intend to keep her legacy alive through the Cornelia Crenshaw Human Rights Preservation Foundation. And this is why it is so important that we keep her name alive. And as you know, I've been around a while. So what I did, I went in and recruited some young people who and taught them about Miss Cornelia Crenshaw so they could keep her legacy alive, and hopefully they would do the same thing and pass the baton on to the next generation after them to keep Miss Cornelia Crenshaw legacy alive.
Now, in keeping her legacy alive, because we know that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw was really big on education and helping the seniors and actually just helping the community as a whole. But we do know that she was really big on education. Krystal, what are some of the things that that's in the works as far as helping the community?
Well, first of all, we want to open up a museum for Miss Crenshaw. And within that museum, we want to have classes to help the community, which would be GZ classes, mental health classes, first aid, and also finance classes where we can help people with their credit. But most of all, which Miss Crenshaw always talked about, was helping people with qualifications, finding out qualifications on getting government jobs here in the city.
Now, Miss Brandy, do you feel that there has been a secrecy, as Miss Cornelia, even now, as what Miss Cornelia Crenshaw said years ago, a secrecy on how to get the good jobs here in this city?
I think that it probably is. I think probably is, and it's just not discussed enough.
It's just not discussed enough, because even back in the 90s, back in the 80s and 70s, Miss Cornelia Crenshaw knew that there was a secrecy, of course, and on how to get the good jobs here in Memphis, because there are programs that are in place and have been in place for a very long time. We plan to help persons, the people in this community, to get through those programs, to tell them where the programs, who's over the programs or whatever, and help them to get the jobs that have been kept a secret in this community. But Miss Cornelia Crenshaw knew even then, Rick, that there was a secrecy, and that was, 30-40 years ago, and it's still going on. Am I right?
I agree. It's going on even to this day. That's why the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation intend to, as Krystal said, start a museum. We can start. We got things that can go in that museum and fill the museum up even now. About Miss Crenshaw. However, Miss Crenshaw was a big pusher for education. She thought that children need to be educated. So that's why when Krystal mentioned about making sure that children that drop out of school get a GED and be educated about the jobs and city and county government, to include Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. When you look at county government, they got got so many jobs. City government got 6,000 jobs down there. Memphis Light, Gas, and Water got 2,800, 2,700 jobs down there. So we're looking at probably when you look at all of county and city government, to include MLGW, we're talking somewhere around 15,000 jobs. And we have so many children that graduate from high school. What we intend to do is get all the job description from city and county government, to include MLGW, and learn about those jobs, then go around to public school system and let people know the qualification of the jobs in that in government, because this city and county always complain about we don't have qualified people to get these jobs. If we go around to the school system, get the school system to buy into what we're doing, we go around and educate the school children when they're in the 11th and 12th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, they can gear themselves toward getting the proper education they need to go right into those jobs. Now, everybody is not going to get a college degree.
Right.
Just simple as that.
Right.
And there's a lot of jobs and Light, Gas, and Water where you can get into an apprenticeship program and get paid while you learn.
Oh wow.
You're an employee, but you're in an apprenticeship program.
So why do you think they don't talk about this?
Well, MLGW, what goes on over there is one of the biggest secrets in town. But what we need to do is let the people of this city know exactly what's going on. And this is what the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation will be all about. When we give them a GED, help them get a GED for them, and we get into all this, a lot of other literate subjects, I think this is what Ms. Crenshaw was all about, and this is what we intend to do. And hopefully you all as board members, long after I pass off the scene, you all will carry Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation on, and then you will bring some the younger people in and keep this going. Because Ms. Crenshaw had a unique way of teaching people about leadership.
Right.
True leadership.
Absolutely.
See, people need to know where they come from so they'll know where they're going.
Right. Yeah.
And when she teaches about leadership, when you learn leadership Cornelia Crenshaw style, you really learn about leadership.
With the museum that we have, you guys, the museum that we already have everything to go in the museum. We plan to offer classes. Now, Miss Candiance is going to offer, she specializes in credit consulting, things of that nature, and this will be free to the community. Miss Brandy specializes in holistic things of that nature, and that's counseling, and that's something I'll be working with her with. Miss Krystal,
we'll be helping people. We'll have classes for mental health, because that's something that we really want to touch on, especially in the Black community.
And also I have to say, because I am a licensed private investigator and I've worked in the law field for so long, I plan to help persons to, with their records, to get things expunged, certain things expunged, especially misdemeanors, to help them to be able to get jobs within the community. I know I specialize in that, so I plan to help with that. These are some of the things that we plan to do with the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation. It is already in the making. Like we've gotten our certifications and so much. We have degrees and things of that nature. And Miss Toni right here, she's in the education field, you know. So we all bring something different to the organization, and this is something that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw wanted. This is something that she fought hard for, and like I said, she didn't get the opportunity to see her dream come to pass. That's why we're going to continue the legacy. And another one of the things that Rick and I is always doing, because Rick has a show, I have a show. We're thinking about bringing the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation. We're thinking about bringing that to TV also, so that you guys can see what we're doing and we can talk more about our organization. But we plan to educate the community on politics. That's one of my passions since I've had the opportunity to see the dirty game of politics, something Miss Cornelia Crenshaw knew back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Sellout politicians, sellout leaders. This is something that Rick and I always stress on our shows. As he said earlier, whoever controls the politics controls the economics, and that's some of the reasons why that the African American community has stayed in bondage, because we've been taught, you know, politics is a dirty game, we need to stay away from that. But Miss Cornelia Crenshaw already knew that the politicians wanted the African Americans to think like that, and that's the reason why you have to be involved in politics, so that we can make sure that the politicians that we vote in bring economics to our communities. And another thing that we have to do, we have to watch them very closely, and we got to stay on the leaders, such as the pastors, such as whoever our leaders are, about bringing politicians into their churches and influencing their members who aren't doing anything for the community. So this is some of the things that the Cornelia Crenshaw plan to educate the community on, because we're planning to use our organization to bring our community out of bondage by any means necessary.
And you know, when I think about all the people in our community that do not graduate from high school, and they need a GED, we would definitely, in the Cornelia Crenshaw classroom, we would definitely go, you know, before Cornelia Crenshaw died, she had an organization they called the Cornelia Crenshaw Human Rights Preservation Center. And of course, we came up with the Cornelia Crenshaw Human Rights Foundation. And all the things that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw was going to do, I knew about it. She talked to me about it. That's why it's so easy to discuss it and or come up with a way to try to copy what she wanted. And if once we and like I said earlier, we're going to be making we'll be making what you call it, trying to get donations from grants from the city and county to carry her legacy on as well. In fact, we got a business plan wrote up right now that's going to that we're going to make proposals to city and county government, you know, at some point, because this organization is helping the community, and we're gonna need some help.
Absolutely.
And but Cornelia Crenshaw legacy will move on. That's the one goal that if I don't do anything else, I intend to. I'm glad I brought you young people aboard, and y'all were willing to come aboard. And like I said, long after I pass off the scene, hopefully that you all will bring some young people and show them the importance of keeping Cornelia Crenshaw values and memory alive, and they would do the same thing. It would just be perpetuate, where people will continue to pick up the torch and ready to fight the fight for our communities, and make sure that we get our community get part of the wealth. So whoever control the politics control the economics, and whoever control the economics control the wealth. We deserve some of the wealth.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we spend more money in these communities. They said that money is power. Black people as a whole spend over $2 trillion a year.
We're really big consumers.
We're very big consumers. So if if money is power, why don't we have any power? It's because we don't know the tricks of the politics.
That's because we're not educated and we're not organized.
Absolutely.
You got to have both of those, education and organization.
Right.
And that translates to power.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to be giving classes within our museum, as we stated earlier. We will have the museum on one level, and we'll have the classes on the next level, and all of these classes are free. But as Rick said, we need support. You know, it's a beautiful thing when you have leaders that remember Miss Cornelia Crenshaw and all the beautiful things that she did, like our former mayor, Dr. Willie Harrington. He knew how hard Miss Cornelia Crenshaw fought. He spoke very highly of her, even spoke at her funeral, you know. Unfortunately, the mayor that we have now, he doesn't understand how great that she is. We're hoping that he will at some point, because she did a lot for this city that he's actually the leader of. It's because of her that actually, I'm sure some of his family members have been able to benefit from some things that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw put into place, you know. So there are leaders who don't understand how important she is, but we're going to keep stressing how important she is, and we're going to bring her dream to pass and continuously help this community. I don't know any leader that's in office right now that would not want those things that Miss Cornelia Crenshaw was trying to bring to fruition to happen, especially if there are leaders in this community, because all she did and all she ever wanted to do was help this community, and that's why we're going to keep the dream and the legacy alive.
That's right.
We got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes. I want to go around the table and just, you ladies, just give me your thoughts and the plans for the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation as far as you're concerned.
My concern would be is that we continue to thrive with her legacy, and we're hoping that I'm not going to say hope, I'm going to speak it, that in the future this will be good for everyone, and also we would like for the community to actually get on board us also, to make this great for Miss Cornelia Crenshaw.
Absolutely.
Well, I agree with what she said too, but I was thinking about Miss Crenshaw as y'all was speaking, and what stood out to me is that her strength, her courage, and through her strength and courage to be able to be a driving force in what we're doing right now. And by saying that, I thought about the women and how we sitting here as women, as well as pushing that through too. Pushing that through too, and as Dad stands for a man, as we come together with that strength and courage on both sides of educating, teaching, and reaching, and what Miss Crenshaw did, because I remember talking to her and how she never let anything get before her way of doing what she wanted to do. And that's the way we got to see it too. And now it's time, like you said, to pass the baton and not letting nobody get in the way of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And letting it grow and thrive in what we're supposed to do as a community. And when we get like that and letting nothing get in the way of it, then you are actually passing that legacy on to them.
Okay, what about you, Mr. Reed?
Me? Miss Crenshaw was a mentor of mine, and of course, her being a mentor of mine, and she taught me about all the things that happened in the early days with Dr. King, all the people in the community that sold out the community, as well as the ones that helped the community that worked with her. So it is my hope that I can pass the knowledge that she passed on to me, to you all, and hopefully you all will be able to pass the knowledge on to people, the younger people that coming after you all. And what we got to do is, we got to do it. And as I always say, that nobody can solve the problem of the black community for us, but us. And we got to do it in spite of racism. We got to do it because our children depends on it. And our children, your children is my children should be your children, the community children should be our children. So we got to look at all the children as our children, and we got to help them in spite of themselves.
Right. Miss Candice?
My hope for Cornelia Crenshaw is that the community honestly see that we really are for the community. Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation is for the community. We don't get anything out of it other than knowing that we are helping our people. And so that's my take on it.
Miss Toni?
Well,
Wait a minute. I tried to hold it. Go ahead.
we, the Cornelia Crenshaw Foundation, we are a voice for her beyond the grave, because she is deceased on this earth. We're speaking beyond the grave. We're pushing her vision, to educate and empower and, be bold, brave, and do a lot of things for the community. So as we go forward, as Ms. Krystal said, we would hope that the community would get with us, so they can learn things, to wake up, so we can help one another to help one another. Because if we go another few years, the cycle we're going, we're just going back down, 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 and we're gonna be back in 1960 before you know it.
As a matter of fact, they may have been better in 1960.
Yeah, and so we're carrying out her vision, and we are, I guess, trying to not let or show people that her life or her death wasn't in vain.
Well, we definitely, our organization definitely stands for progress and
stay woke.
And stay woke, absolutely. And in order to stay woke, you have to be taught, and so many of our people have not been taught. It's not that they don't want to do better, they just don't know how to do better. And that's why this organization is going to work hard to let the community know that there are resources. And we're going to bring those resources to you, because we know that once people know better, they will do better. And we plan to put the resources there so that you can know better. Well, this has been a great show. I have greatly enjoyed having the Cornelia Crenshaw board members on my show. I am delighted to be part of such a organization that's getting ready to do amazing things, not just within the city of Memphis, because Miss Cornelia Crenshaw had a dream that did not have limits on it. I really believe this organization is going to help many surrounding areas outside of the city of Memphis, but of course we're going to start right here in Memphis and help the Memphis community. And as we said earlier, we definitely need help because we want to build her museum. And those persons who know that what Miss Cornelia Crenshaw did for this community should not have a problem with helping us to realize that dream and bring it to pass.
And this is just a few of the Cornelia Crenshaw board members. There are other board members.
There are other board members that I plan to have on here very soon, of course. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamara right here on Tamara's TV network on Comcast Channel 31. Until next time, God bless us all.
There's a hero if you look inside your heart. You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth. a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love. You will search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Long roads, dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone tear them away. Hold on, there will be tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. And a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
Oh yeah, oh, girl, me want fi hold you, put me arms right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me want fi just squeeze you, put me thing right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Oh, behind them try and me no care. Me take it anytime, anywhere. In the square, so me no care. Long as a woman, I will be there. Me want a girl ready to take care of me. Me want a girl that want me really good.
Hi, my name is Tamara, host of Real Talk with Tamara, and I'm also the CEO of Tamara's Productions Network. Starting this month, Tamara's Productions Network is going to start shining the light on female business owners. So, if you know of a female business owner that's doing great things for the community, give me a call at 901-801-2120. Being a female business owner myself, I feel that it is important to shine a light on females that are doing great things for this community. So make sure you give me a call at 901-801-2120 so that I can have her right here in my studio to interview her so that my audience can see all the great things she's doing for the community. And that's going to happen right here on Tamara's Productions Network, Comcast Channel 31.
And all my sisters coming together, say yes I will.
This has been a Tamara's Productions.